It likes you just fine.
Thank you for the prayers. Welcome to Unity of Mesa. My name is Reverend Mindy Tucker, and I serve as co-minister here in the beautiful city of Mesa, Arizona. So we welcome you in person if you're in the building, and we welcome you online, knowing that wherever you are in the right place at the right time, right now. Unity is a worldwide movement that builds consciousness, a consciousness of love, joy, and peace. We affirm above and beyond all things that there's only one presence and one power active in the universe and in our lives, God, the good omnipotence. Let's take a moment to come into prayer with that affirmation. There is only one presence and one power active in the universe and in our lives, God, the good omnipotence. We allow that truth to permeate every cell of our body and influence every thought in our mind. We are a radiating center of peace. We are a radiating center of love and of joy. We are one with Source, with Spirit, with creative energy, with causal energy. So it is, and so we let it be. We have a very special guest today with us. We have Dr. Will Tuttle, who is a renowned speaker, a renowned author. He's with his wife, Madeline Tuttle, who's a renowned artist. So, we are in for a tremendous blessing. He is not only delivering the message today, our lesson, he is hanging around with us, and he's going to be here at 12 for a 2-hour workshop calling The Keys to Developing Your Intuition. So your intuition is already there. It's planted like a seed. But he's going to give us solid how-tos for nurturing that intuition that lives in us and how we can use it to experience more love, joy, and peace in the world. He's got his Ph.D. from Berkeley, where, there are certain universities who can do certain things, but at Berkeley, you can actually get your Ph.D. focusing on educating intuition. Okay, so that's pretty special. He's a former Zen monk, a Dharma master in the Korean Zen tradition. He plays the piano beautifully. That is one of his geniuses. Madeline, his wife, specializes in art. You'll see it all around me up here on the stage, and it's available on a products table. So you can always have a piece of Madeline and Will in your heart and in your home. He travels the world. He's a best-selling author. He's the author of the World Peace Diet. So if you want to know more about being vegan and the blessings that you can give yourself and the world by becoming vegan, have a chat with him. So let's see. The other thing I want you to know that's going on in this community is we have new members class. That's this Wednesday at 6:30. There is a prerequisite of reading any one of 4 core Unity books, all of which are available in our bookstore. And if you go to our website, you're watching online, you can see what those 4 books are. All right, let's stand as we are able, and we're going to sing about God being our source. Here we go.
God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Love is my source. Love is my power. Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Love gives me everything I need. Joy is my source. Joy is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Joy gives me everything I need. Peace is my source. Peace is my power. Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything I need.
Well, the last Sunday of the month we call Diversity Sunday. We take an opportunity to look at events and holy things that are going on in the world from different faith traditions and different experiences. The first diversity event I want to bring your attention to is on June 3rd. In Pine Bush, New York, which is a town that's known for its UFO sightings and paranormal activity, has a festival. They have everything from cheesy costume parades for ET alien kinds of types. Then they have this conference with serious speakers, and the theme of this year's festival, convention, conference is Chronicles of Abductions. June 9th is a holy day in the Celtic Christian tradition. It's celebrating Saint Columba of Iona. He's one of the 12 apostles. I don't know if you know, but the history is after the fall of the Roman Empire, Christianity pretty much died down in Western Europe, and the 12 apostles of Ireland are credited for the revival of Christianity. So we can thank the 12 apostles, especially St. Columba. Guru Arjan Dev is the birth holiday celebrated of the fifth guru in the Sikh tradition. He's the one who commissioned this beautiful golden temple in Amritsar, India. Not long after it was completed, some king who was jealous about the beauty of this had Guru Arjan arrested and then tortured, and when he died, the whole focus of the Sikh religion shifted from being very peaceful to being more militant for their belief system. Juneteenth is celebrated in the United States on June 19th. Some people consider June 19th to be the longest celebrated holiday in the African American tradition. In 1865, the rest of the United States knew that the slaves had been freed, but Texas didn't find out until June 19th. And so that's a day that a lot of community activities and cultural heritage is celebrated in African American traditions. Summer solstice occurs on June 21st. Its celebrations reach back into very pagan traditions. It is the day when it's the longest bit of light, so it's like my favorite day in the whole year. Historic birthdays. On your left is Josephine Baker. She was born in 1903. She was born in St. Louis, but she was extremely talented and highly motivated to make her way in the entertainment world. She's the first African American woman to appear in a full-length feature film. Now, it was a silent movie, but she was the one. She immigrated to Paris. She became a French citizen. She fought in the resistance. She was a spy. She used to hobnob with all the German officers, and then she would write her intelligence down in invisible ink on papers and keep it with her sheet music, so nobody ever found it. Anyway, on the other side is Stravinsky. Igor, thank you. Igor Stravinsky. He was born in 1893. He was born right near St. Petersburg, Russia, but he immigrated to the United States. It is said of him that he had more influence on the world of music and composers than anyone else in the 20th century. Aaron Copland, talk about him. Time magazine named him one of the most influential, 100 most influential people in the 20th century. He had 5 Grammys. He had the National Order of something from the Portuguese and the Royal Philharmonic. I mean, he was decorated all around the world. Incredible talent. Historic birthdays. June 3rd is National Repeat Day. June 3rd is National Repeat Day. The 6th is National Trails Day. The 9th is Donald Duck Day. The 17th is Global Garbage Man Day. Oh my goodness, the work that the garbage collectors do for us. Thank you. And the 21st of June is National Selfie Day. So now you've had just a brief idea of several different world traditions, and I thank you for your attention. Julie's coming up now with Haven. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Haven and I are really happy to be with you today, and Haven's going to lead us in our affirmation. We could have that up on the screen. There we go.
With God, I walk a path of wisdom. Say it with me. With God, I walk a path of wisdom.
Thanks, Haven. You get to ring the chimes for us. All right. Let's say our children's blessing before they go out for their class this morning.
Children, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ you are. And off they go. My courageous life has gone ahead and is looking back, calling me on. My courageous life has seen everything I have been and everything I have not, and has forgiven me day after day. My courageous life still wants my company, wants me to understand my life as witness, and thus bequeath me the way ahead. My courageous life has the patience to keep teaching me how to invent my own disappearance and how, once again, to reappear. My courageous life wants to stop being ahead of me so that it can lie down and rest deep inside the body it has been calling on. My courageous life wants me to be my foundation, showing me day after day, even against my will, how to undo myself, how to surpass myself, how to laugh as I go in the face of danger, how to invite the right kind of perilous love, how to find a way to die of generosity.
Thank you. That beautiful poem. I'd like to go ahead and invite everyone now to let's join together for our meditation time. Thank you. Get comfortable in your seats. So let's become aware of our breathing as we begin our time of meditation together. With every exhalation, letting go of any thoughts of the past, of the future, allowing ourselves to enter more deeply into this present moment, letting go of whatever it took to get here this morning and entering into this moment. The only holy moment is right now. And so we give thanks for this precious opportunity to be together here in this beautiful sanctuary, this sacred place that is a manifestation of our yearning to awaken to the truth that we are. Knowing that what we are was never born and will never die. That what we are is the source of this life. We give thanks for everyone who makes this outer sanctuary possible, as we know that this outer sanctuary is a manifestation of the inner sanctuary, where we dwell always in unity with the infinite love that is the source of our life and the source of all life. So we give thanks for everyone who helps make this outer sanctuary possible. And we give thanks for all of our teachers and for all of the teachings of all the traditions that help to turn our mind away from the delusion of separateness to the truth of the infinite interconnectedness of all life. And we give thanks for this beautiful earth and for all of the manifestations of life here, for the rivers and mountains, the forests and prairies, the islands and the jungles, and all of the beautiful living beings celebrating their lives here, the birds in the sky, all the marine animals in the waters of the earth, all the living beings celebrating the infinite intelligence, joy, and creativity. And we give thanks for the whole human family also on our journey of awakening to the truth that we are in our right relationship here on this earth. We give thanks knowing that the light that shines at the heart of the universe is shining right now in our heart. It is shining in every cell of our being and bringing every dimension of our life into harmony, into abundance, into peace and joy, into freedom, into radiant health, and into alignment with the purpose that we have for this lifetime. So we just allow the music now to deepen our connection with our mission, the unique reason we are here. Just allow the music to take us on an inner journey, opening an inner doorway to the truth that we are. Abiding in the inner silence of wholeness, of peace and harmony, abiding in our true home, abiding in the infinite life, abiding in love, compassion, joy, and peace, abiding in freedom, may all beings be at peace and free. And may we all continue to work together to build a more enlightened society, a world that reflects the truth of the inner Christ shining always in our hearts. This compassion and kindness and respect for all expressions of life. We give thanks through the power and presence of the indwelling Spirit of truth and love. And so it is. Thank you all for joining together in the meditation. I'd like to, before going into the talk, I'd like to play a piece of original music. And this is called The Garden. It's actually on one of our albums as Le Jardin. It's in French, but it's The Garden. And the melody actually came to me originally when I was in the Ukraine, way back when it was the Soviet Union. And I was there as part of a citizen diplomacy effort to try to build peace between the Soviet Union and the United States. And while I was there, I was playing this the piano, and this melody came to me. And I'd like to share it with you now and dedicate it to world peace, to creating a field of awareness of the oneness, the unity of the whole human family. And just invite all of you, as you're listening to the music, to let it take you on an inner journey. And we dedicate this to the healing of all of our relations. This is the garden. Enjoy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow, thank you. It's great to be back with this in this beautiful sanctuary and this beautiful piano. Madeline and I have come here quite a few times over the years, and it's always a highlight to be here in this space of love. I have such fond memories of Joel Bear and so many great times here. Anybody here when Joel was here? Some of you? Yeah, great. All right, I'm sure he's smiling down with us right now. And maybe I should back up one. Is this better? So I'd like to talk a little bit about intuition. As we heard earlier, Madeline and I will be doing a workshop here this afternoon. Unity, I think, is really known, actually, for emphasizing this idea that we all have our own inner guidance system. And one of the things I love about traveling to Unity, which Madeline and I have been able to do now for many years, probably now close to 40 years, we've been going to Unity churches and speaking on Sunday morning and so forth. And I always feel that Unity is one of the healthiest movements on the planet, in the sense that there isn't any dogma that you're forced to abide by, and it's really a movement based on inclusion. This idea that not only is everyone welcome, but the idea that we include all of the world's wisdom traditions within the sphere of our understanding. That we have this human heritage of great wisdom traditions, not only in the Western tradition, in Judeo and Christian tradition, but also in the Eastern traditions. And Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were students in many ways of the wisdom and ancient wisdom traditions. So to me, it's very refreshing, because I was raised in New England in a church where this basic idea was, well, if you just believe our creed and you'll get to go to heaven, it's really the best one just for us. This idea, this kind of exclusivist idea. And so one of the things that Charles is well known for is this idea of going straight to headquarters, right? Each one of us should go straight to headquarters. And I think that's very refreshing. For him, it was kind of easy. For him, it just meant, well, I'll just ask Myrtle, see what she thinks. So he had a kind of easy way out. But for the rest of us, the idea is for us to connect with our inner guidance system, right? With this, which is, I feel, intuition. We have this capacity for spiritual inner understanding. And the problem really is for us, I think, being raised in this society, is that we're all, in many ways, bombarded with messages from the time we're little kids that work against this. And So one of the things that I think is very important to understand is that if we're not being guided by our intuition, what are we being guided by? Like, in other words, we're always being guided, right? We're doing something. We're getting up in the morning. We're doing something, right? We're eating a certain thing. We have certain ambitions, right? Aspirations, goals, all kinds of things, right? Here we are. We're living our lives, but what is actually propelling us? Where do these thoughts and emotions that are driving us along in our life, where do they actually come from? Where do they come from? And so I think the thing to understand is that if we're not being guided and propelled by our intuition, our inner wisdom, then basically we're being propelled by the cultural program, right? There's a cultural program, and as soon as we're born, we're like a little sponge, right? Which is great in a way. We just soak up everything. Their attitudes become my attitudes. Their religion becomes their food, everything. And so as little kids, we just soak everything up. And as we unfold, we get basically rewarded for certain things and punished for other things. And so we learn to navigate. And all of this goes on and gets more and more complex. But the thing is, where's the spirituality in that? What actually is spirituality if we're just doing what we're told to do, following orders, basically, that come from, where do they come from? Our parents, our teachers, our friends, our neighbors, our relatives, the Walmart ads, all these things, from our ministers, right? But not unity ministers, but the other ministers. So we're this whole collection, right, of programming that kind of propels us along for better or for worse as we go along. And so I think we can go to church every Sunday and as part of that programming, but quite honestly, there's no spirituality happening in the whole thing. Spirituality starts beginning when we're actually being guided by something that is our true nature. And that's the thing. I think intuition, it doesn't mean that our life will suddenly become magically easy and we'll have nothing, won't be any challenges anymore. We'll still have all the challenges, but what it means is I'm living my life, not somebody else's, not some conditioned program. And I think that's inherently satisfying. There's an inherent sense of joy that bubbles up from deep within us, which is always present. I really love this emphasis on joy because that's our true nature. There's actually a tremendous amount of joy within us as consciousness, as eternal consciousness, to just open our eyes and see the beauty. How many of you have noticed that the earth is beautiful? Anyone figured that out yet? There's so much beauty. And I love Madeline's art, because she really emphasizes the beauty of nature and the beauty of animals and the beauty of everything around us. And I think the more we can connect with beauty and express beauty as love and kindness and creativity and respect and celebrate our lives in that way, because we are surrounded by beauty. And that's one of the things I think going into nature, we can really see that and immerse ourselves and contemplate the significance of this tremendous amount of beauty that's in trees and flowers and birds and all around us and in us, in each other. And the whole key, I think, really is to understand that our inner guidance system is always present. It just requires us to quiet our minds so that we can actually engage it. But it is always present. And there's this great story I remember hearing back when President Reagan was in office. And the story was that he figured out a way to solve the energy crisis once and for all, forever, right? And so he went to his advisors and he said, I've got this great idea. What we'll do is we will build a pipeline from the earth up to the sun. And we'll just pipe the energy in this pipeline. And we'll have plenty of energy. And we can meter it. We can get rich. We'll solve the energy crisis forever. So they all said, all right, great. It's a great idea, Mr. President. We'll get all our engineers and experts on it, and we'll get back to you in a couple of days. And so they came back a few days later, and they said, as usual, sir, it's a very presidential idea. But the problem is, as we're building that pipeline and we get up close to the sun, sir, the temperatures are so high, it's so hot up there, that whatever we build the pipe out of, it's not going to work. It's going to melt the pipe. He said, look, that's why I'm president. I already figured that out. When we get up close to the sun, then we will only build at night. And so, nothing about former presidents, but I think the basic idea is that we laugh at, we find that humorous in a sense because we know from the point of view of where we are, he's right? We say it all the time. Oh, the sun's not shining, gosh. Or if it's a cloudy day, right? Oh, the sun's not shining. From the point of view of the sun, it's always shining. It's just always shining. It's just we are either turned in the other direction or something's got in the way and we can't really see the sun shining. It's exactly the same with our intuition. It's always shining. We're just looking the other direction and listening to our conditioning and our programming, or the clouds of our limitations and fears and so forth have gotten in the way. So really, it's not so much about getting intuitive, it's really removing the obstacles to our intuition. We'll be talking about that this afternoon, but I think this is the great good news, is that all of us have the possibility to connect with this inner guidance system, and that as we do that, we connect with joy. We get out of bed in the morning because we're connected with a purpose, and we have a reason for this incarnation. We know, in a sense, why we're here, and in many ways, we have to discover this, I think, every single day. That's part of it. And so one of the things I think that's really important, as I said earlier, is some kind of a meditation practice. How many of you have something like that going on? Some kind of time where you just don't do something good? Like Thich Nhat Hanh said, don't just do something, sit there, right? And I think in many ways we're raised in a society where we're taught that we're only somebody if we're accomplishing something or being busy doing something. And there's nothing to be said against that. We are on this earth to act. That's for sure true. However, our actions, where do they come from? What is motivating the action? And see, the thing is, the more powerfully we can connect with our intuition, the more effective and powerful our actions will be in the outer world, because now we're acting from a deeper place. And this, I think, really goes back to understanding our true nature. That what are we? See, the main problem, I think, in our society is that we are bombarded with the message from the time we're kids, from the medical industry, the media, everywhere, that what we are is matter. What we are is a material thing, this, right? This body. So I think this is the foundation of the problem in many ways. In order to really begin to connect with our intuition, first of all, we need to understand that what we are is consciousness. In the Buddhist tradition, it's interesting. Most of my research and my experience and so forth has been in the Buddhist tradition, a lot of it anyway. And so in the Buddhist tradition, before they ever had any statues of the Buddha, that took hundreds of years. In the beginning, they never thought of that. It wasn't until Buddhism got to Greece a few hundred years later, and they said, well, we should make a statue of this guy, They never thought of that. Like, why make a statue of this guy? But the Buddha, in the beginning, one of the main symbols of Buddhism was a footprint. A footprint. And a footprint, it's interesting, because when you go to the beach, right, and you're walking along, or go to the desert out here, you see footprints in the sand. You don't go up to the footprint and go, well, good morning, George, how you doing? Right? It's just a footprint. It's not the being that made the footprint. So it's the same thing right here. This is a footprint waving. We can see each other's footprints. We see the being is something we can only see as we cultivate our intuition. And that's the tremendous healing power, because once we quiet our mind, we can allow our consciousness to clarify to the point that we realize this is a vehicle. It's not the being that we are, which was, as I said earlier, never born and will never die, that in a sense is functioning through this body. And when we understand that, then we can heal. That's really what the whole prayer tower is about, is understanding. When we understand our true nature, then that understanding starts to bring everything into harmony in this physical vehicle, because this physical vehicle is here to serve our mission. So when we understand that we're here for just a few decades, and it's actually great. We get a few decades here. I mean, you eat a lot of sprouts, maybe you get 10 or 11, right? I remember they had an interview with the oldest living human being that they knew of at the time, a couple of years ago, a woman, 117 years old from Japan. And they said, what's it like to be 117? And she thought for a minute, she said, It just sure went by awfully fast. So it goes quickly, and all of us are going to be at that point when we leave this body, guaranteed. So, but what we are is what makes this possible. And when we get to that point, when we leave, what's going to matter is how we lived our life. Are we part of the solution to the problems here? Are we doing our best to be a force for loving kindness and healing and looking beyond the outer surface of the footprints to see the being that makes that possible? And when we address that, when we see that in ourselves, then we can see that in others, then we can bring forth the best in each other. We see the best in each other. We see the eternal light that is always shining in all of us. And I think this is really the key, but it's difficult to do it if we aren't doing it for ourselves and actually seeing it in ourselves. You know, in my own life, I'll just say this very briefly, but I remember, you know, I was born and raised in Concord, Massachusetts. Some of you may remember this from other times, but it was kind of a neat place to be born and raised because it was the home of the Transcendentalists. It was actually, it's originally the home of the Revolution, right? You all know the story of the battle at the Old North Bridge in Concord in 1775. Hardly a man is now alive who remembers the famous day and year of the midnight ride of Paul Revere, right? I mean, this was in my blood. So every April 19th, which is Patriots Day back in Concord, my father would get dressed up in his Minuteman outfit and get the gun off the wall, the old musket, you know, and we'd go down to the Old North Bridge and we would celebrate and reenact, actually, the battle at the Old North Bridge. The other guys would be dressed up as redcoats, British, and we'd all shoot at them and send them back to Boston, and we'd celebrate the Revolution, right? We have to, if you have a, you know, tyranny, you should overthrow it, right? We shouldn't live our lives as slaves. So the whole idea, that was in the earlier years, in the 1700s. But then in the 1800s in Concord, there was the Transcendentalist revolution, in a sense. And it was very impactful to unity. I found out later, Emerson. I was born in Emerson Hospital, went to school at Thoreau School and Alcott School and learned to swim in Walden Pond. You know, and there was this whole feeling of the Transcendentalists. And what were they doing? They were bringing the very oldest teachings, especially from Asia, into North America. So the idea from the Taoist tradition, for example, that God is infinite principle, or the idea from the Hindu tradition that God is female as well as male, right? Or the idea from the Buddhist tradition of God as infinite mind, consciousness. Now, these ideas really triggered and enriched the prevailing culture here and really gave rise in many ways to what we call the New Thought movement. And so as a little kid, I don't know if I got some of that, but I remember going away to college in Maine in the early 1970s, and I started questioning everything. It was during the Vietnam War, and like, what are we doing? And I started reading books on meditation and yoga, and I came across a book, some of you may know, it's an old book from the 1890s called Cosmic Consciousness by Richard Buck. And basically what he said is everybody is pretty much living in a state of what he calls self-consciousness, where we basically care about ourselves, you know, and maybe our family, a few people around us. And so he said that is marked with the usual problems of fear and so forth. But he said certain people, rare people, had reached what he called cosmic consciousness. People like Jesus and the Buddha and great sages and saints and mystics, both men and women, and he gave examples of these people through the centuries and how they had attained a qualitatively higher level of consciousness. And so they had lost the fear of death in many cases, and they had lost that sort of petty, narrow-minded view, and they really lived their lives to bless others, to help others. There was this intellectual illumination, he called it, and a moral elevation that just naturally happened. But the thing that really got me was, he said, it is the destiny of everyone on this earth, every human being, to attain cosmic consciousness. That's the point. That's why we're here, is to attain this higher level of consciousness. That's the purpose. So I remember going home at the spring break and so forth and say, Dad, Mom, you know, we're here to attain cosmic consciousness, right? You know that. And I remember my father said, well, cosmic consciousness. Well, you know, we're spending a lot of money on that education. Now, how's that going to help you get ahead in the world? You know? But he actually, he was somewhat open to this, and my mother also. He actually played the piano, and my mother was an artist, so they kind of had an idea. But the idea was like, what am I going to do to attain cosmic consciousness? I remember talking to my younger brother, Ed, about it, and to my delight, he totally was into it too. And so we said, we've got to attain cosmic consciousness. That's it. So as soon as I graduated from Colby, college, we thought, okay, now we're going to attain cosmic consciousness. But what do we do now? Like, what do we do? So we thought about it, and then we knew what to do. We'll go to California. You know? We thought, this was 1975. We thought if we just get to San Francisco, we'll find cosmic consciousness somehow. So we headed off down the driveway of our parents' home with some fresh baked cookies from my mother, no money at all. We just were going to do like they did in ancient India. We were just going to walk and meditate and just be taken care of by the universe. And it was amazing. We actually had a lot of miracles actually did happen. It's quite amazing when you just give everything up. And we never went hungry the whole time. We had no money. We just somehow, we got as far as Buffalo, and after a few weeks, and then it was freezing. It was October, so we decided to just head south. And we actually ended up walking all the way down through upstate New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. We actually got to Tennessee. There was a community called The Farm. And The Farm in 1975 was the largest hippie commune in the world. And they were all from California. It was like we were there. And that was where they were all vegetarian. So that was where I learned to never eat meat. So I never eaten meat in my life since then. When I met Madeline years later, I found out that she, in Switzerland in 1975, also she decided to never eat meat again. And I kept going, eventually ended up in Huntsville, Alabama at a Zen center, if you can believe that. You probably think I'm lying, but there was one. And eventually ended up in San Francisco at a Tibetan Buddhist center, and then eventually in a Zen monastery in South Korea. Shaved my head, became a Zen Buddhist monk, and had the wonderful opportunity to spend just countless hours, thousands of hours in meditation, just from 2:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night, and just sitting. But eventually came back actually to this country and decided to get a Ph.D. at Berkeley and taught college, and discovered unity and realized that unity actually is an incredible institution and vehicle and living movement, because it brings the ancient wisdom straight in, right here, accessible to everyone, without any impediments. I mean, it's so valuable, because the thing is, the spiritual teachings, like I talked about earlier, of intuition and of cosmic consciousness that Richard Buck was talking about, this awareness, this is it. And each one of us have an obligation, I think, to do our best to understand this and to pass it on to the next generation. If this dies out, it's over. I mean, if we don't have the spiritual light and the spiritual spark going, then darkness takes over the earth. It's really up to us, our efforts. And so this is really incredibly precious. And the underlying idea, I just want to end with two ideas, and I'll close right here, is that number one, all of us have within us this bubbling spring of joy. And I remember when I was a kid, on that walk with my brother Ed, we'd be walking somewhere, and I had no reason to have any joy, right? We had no money. We didn't know where we were going to spend the night. We had nothing. We had no reason to be happy. But it was like the first time in my life, since I was maybe a little tiny kid, I had these waves of joy just washing over me, because I was living my life. I think all of us, when we're living our life, we feel that sense of joy. And then the second thing I just want to emphasize is the idea of community, because the whole thing really is about community. It's the teachings come through community. The Buddha said, there's three jewels in the Buddhist tradition: the Buddha, which is the inner Christ, we call it the inner awakened nature; the Dharma, which is the teaching that helps us to attain that; and then the Sangha, which is the community of people who are on the path of awakening their inner Christ true nature. And he said, without the Sangha, there'll be no Dharma and there'll be no Buddha. So supporting this ministry right here by doing the inner work and then by doing the outer work to help keep this alive and keeping the teachings alive is such a great thing to do when we come to this earth. So thank you all so much for your kind attention, for the efforts you're making. No effort is ever lost. Bless you all. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tuttle. Absolutely wonderful. And my personal thanks, because I have had a session with you before, and I have one of Madeline's intuitive pictures at home. And I love it. Thank you so much. And speaking of gifts, and we've just heard and talked about several wonderful gifts. We all have gifts, smiles, hugs. Make sure to check with the other person first. Handshakes. You know, these are all things that build our community, our time, our talents, our treasures, and just a smile, a beautiful smile can be the treasure that someone else needs that day. And so when we're out there, smile, handshake, and get to know one another. Make this the community you want. And so when we talk about other gifts, we talk about monetary gifts as well, because that's what turns the lights on. And we have lots. I personally give online. We have the Vanco app, we have text, we have mail. You can give in person, and the ushers will pass the baskets today. And if you do give online, there's another card behind the chairs. Reverend Mindy has it. Just put that in there so we know who you are. Well, it went away. So there is a text as well. And there we go. unityofmesa.org, the phone number, and there's our address if you want to send it by mail. And so let's speak our offering, blessing. And can we have the ushers come forward? Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is.
Okay, so I'd like to just play a short piece as the baskets go around. This is called Dance for the Arctic Moon. Enjoy.
offering first by saying together, we are one with the opulence of God. We are now in the flow of infinite abundance. And we give thanks for the prosperity that is ours by divine right. Thank you so much for being you. Thank you for supporting this community in all the ways that you do. We want you to know that we have chaplains who are available to pray with you, and the chaplains will stand up so we can identify them. We have John Groves here. Ooh, and we have Audrey Burke. So 2 amazing beings that are willing to stand with you in faith as you recognize that intuition that is alive in you, and to give you that little, what do you call it? Jump start? That thing you get when your heart has forgotten how to beat. Give you that jump start and support to remind you you are a spiritual being having this amazing human experience. Thank you, Will, so much for being with us today. You know, and now you know, and now you know online that we have some snacks in the garden outside, so you have time to stay and have a good time and be in community, one of those 3, and then stay for Dr. Will's workshop. Do you want to just say a few words about that?
Very, very quickly. Please join us if you can. Madeline, let's give a hand to Madeline for the art and everything. Yeah. She's right here too. Thank you. And we'll be sharing some techniques of meditation and imagery along with music and art to help everyone who joins us connect with your own unique way of accessing your intuition. Albert Schweitzer said the key to happiness is good health and a short memory. And so getting into this moment and understanding that, we'll be talking about that. So join us if you can at noon. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.